All right, you ever had it with the media? Well, Texas resident Kyle Courtney paid for this billboard to rail against the media. Take a look. What happened? What got you to do this?
In the last 3 or 4 years, it started to look like propaganda, and it hurt. Those people were part of my family, and I don't have somewhere to go to news anymore, so we're through.
All right, not everyone can put up a billboard like that to air their displeasure, but a lot of people feel like doing it. Accuracy of Media Editor Roger Aronoff on why some say journalism, or at least anything approaching fair journalism, is dying. Very good to have you, Roger. I mean, this guy went the extra mile to put up a billboard, but here was a regular veteran and a watcher growing up of ABC News, I assume back in the days of Frank Reynolds and later on Peter Jennings and through different incarnations, where he felt that he could trust the delivery and trust the deliverer, no more. And this is happening across a lot of different media that doesn't even dare to question some of the sometimes outlandish stuff being said. What do you make of this?
Yes, absolutely, Neil. Kyle Courtney is speaking for a lot of people. Accuracy in Media has been around nearly 50 years talking about the liberal bias in the media. So we're very familiar with it. And when you look at, for instance, what we call the incest between the Democrat Party and the major networks, for instance, ABC, Ben Sherwood, his sister was on Obama's National Security Council, as was David Rhodes, the president of CBS News. His brother, Ben Rhodes, was the deputy national security advisor for Obama. So you have this across the board. And recently, this Harvard Shorenstein study that shows the first 100 days or so of the Trump administration, how the coverage has been, even particularly CNN and NBC, 93% negative. Now, I question that. I still haven't seen 7% positive coverage on either network, I don't believe.
Well, you know, one of the things that you do wonder about, Roger, and I always say, you know, people always interpret the news through their own prism and their own bias and their own set of facts. What I always like to argue with people, regardless of your political viewpoint, is, in my case, I have 3 hours of programming I do a day here, 2 hours on this fine channel, an hour on Fox News. There are several, 24-hour news channels, several 24-hour business channels. We have time to get into any and all. So plenty of time to get into the Russia, the collusion charges and allegations of Donald Trump and whether he's crazy. If you want to do any of that, fine, fine. You also have time to step back and go into some of the other issues that are out there, like the president meeting with CEOs, like the president improving market economy. You have time to get into all of that. But what worries me is when we pick and choose one or the other. We have time to do both.
We have time to do both, and I'll tell you what they really should be investigating. There should be a special counsel looking into Hillary's collusion with the Russians. We have Skolkovo, Uranium One, Podesta's ties. We have Obama during the election saying that, oh, Hillary was just careless. This was while the investigation was going on. We know what happened with Loretta Lynch meeting Bill Clinton on the tarmac and then telling Comey this is a matter, not an investigation. I think he understood that there was never going to be an indictment, and that's why he laid out such a compelling case. And here with Trump, you have this situation where, hey, he was told by Comey 3 times, you're not under investigation. CNN and ABC both reported 2 days before Comey's testimony earlier this month that he was going to be saying, no, I did not tell him that. But then 2 days later, he released that he had said that, which put to shame their anonymous sources and brings into question so many other anonymous sources.
Yeah, you do have to wonder about this, and believe me, this is the president of the media, of course, has really never been a great fan of, and then, of course, nor he of theirs. But I do wonder when I hear outrageous comments, for example, on the left, with Nancy Pelosi just this morning on CBS News saying hundreds of thousands of people will die if this Senate health bill passes. And I'm wondering where the challenge is to something like that. Where do you come up with a number like that? And yet, if a Republican had said it, I mean, it would certainly be pounced on, as it should, just to follow up on it. None of that. And that's what worries me. Right.
She doesn't feel the restraint to have to come up with an explanation for her numbers, just saying blood money and they're killing hundreds of thousands of people.
Right, they're mean and callous, and I just argue that what we have might be deemed mean and callous because of what's happened under this with rising premiums. In other words, it gets back to, as we talked before, Roger, about time to get into all of that. So you can't be so distorted in your thinking that it's one or the other. You can do both.
Yes, absolutely. And then Bernie Sanders yesterday on Meet the Press, Chuck Todd, whose wife has helped him tremendously through her marketing firm, and he never mentions that, and he never asks him the tough questions about the people who are out killing and shooting in his name, about where he comes up with these figures, and about he and his wife being under investigation for what happened with the college up in Vermont.
Yeah, there's plenty of time to get into this stuff, and we're not doing it. We're not doing it. Roger,
Right.
thank you.
Thank you.
And holding people accountable on both sides of the ledger.